Alright, I'm gonna try and do another live standard game. See if anybody is fighting. See, all these people are seeking 15 minutes, but their ratings are like 1300s and such. I want to get someone who's like 1700 or something. My rating is kind of low on this site. I don't play particularly well with the long time controls on the internet. I'll play this guy. I have some kind of a mental block that prevents me from really analyzing positions the way that I should. You know, I've lost several games on this server just playing like, you know, needlessly risky continuations. I'm going to try the Kopek system, Bishop D3. This violates principle because I'm blocking my d-pawn. But the idea is that I'm going to play c3 and then bishop c2 to, you know, sort of get the bishop back in a Ruy Lopez position, and then like slowly transpose it to a Spanish after I play d4. That's the idea of the Kopek system anyway. It can be played against knight c6, d6, e6. So one of the I know there's several setups that I can try against this. Regardless, I'm going to try quick castles, and you know, in case Black decides he wants to open the position. So like if Black plays d5 right now, which would be the obvious way, trying to take advantage of my funny development by, you know, breaking open the position, I just take on d5 and then queen takes e5 castles. And then, you know, and I can just get on with, you know, hit his queen later with queen c3. Or knight c3, I mean. So apparently he's deciding what he wants to play against this. So I've taken him out of his book, maybe. I had an opponent play e5 against me, and when e5 was played, I said, "Oh, I'll take advantage of that diagonal." I played the bishop again. I played it to c4, and you know, because his the pawn can't go backwards, so he was unable to play pawn to e6. So I just played, even though I lost some time, I played based on that diagonal, the a2 g8 diagonal, and. Actually, I can't remember whether I won that game or not. I think that's one of the games where I lost because I tried like some early knight g5 thing that didn't work out. Oh no, sorry. That I actually did win the game that I'm thinking about, where I played my bishop to d3 and then again to c4. But let's see. Yeah, like there's Black could play g6 here, and then bishop g7. And then like e5, knight e7, or you can play like d6 and g6, or you can play e6 and d5. I always thought that Mr. Kopek's noun was pronounced Kopech, you know, like it were Serbian or something. But I actually watched a like a YouTube video, you know, from you know, Danny Kopek, and he pronounces his name Kopek, so I better stop. My opponent says, "What?" in question mark. And I will say, "Hi." Sorry, you probably can't see the chat because I drew my window too narrow. Let's do some different sounds. Actually, Skrillex might be a little inappropriate for this particular. There you go. That should be better. He, my friend plays the c3 variation. All right, so d5 at this point See, I want to play d3, but no, then he just takes and takes my queen, and well, I could do that, I guess. The alternative would be taking on d4. So I'm kind of forced between those two moves here, because e5 just loses the pawn for nothing. If I take on d5, queen takes d5. If castles, he has bishop g4, trying to double my... I don't know, d3, I just don't think I get enough out of that. Even though my pawn on c3 is well placed, you know, because it takes squares away from his knight, it's blocking his bishop. I don't want to, you know, be undeveloped. So I think I have to take here. And then definitely maybe h3 to stop bishop g4 and shattering my pawns. However, he then plays queen e6, and I don't have a way of getting out of that check conveniently. So I think I gotta play d3, which allows me to play knight d2. And he's reasonably good, 2200, so I guess it deserves some respect. And I will say K. Alright, he can still play his queen to e6 check here, I guess. And because I can't block bishop e3 in this position. But he didn't do that. So, can I... He queenside castle, which looks kind of risky, but... Would I play queen e2 here? The alternative to this castle is get my king out of the center. Queen e2. Or can I just play h3? If h3, then he plays... Probably plays the queen check. Alright, h3. If the queen check, then maybe king f1. Because then his bishop is getting trapped. No, it's not, because he goes back to f5 and he's starting to take on d3. I don't know, I think queen e2 is, I don't know, that looks like, yeah, that looks alright. I'm not quite sure how to play this position, actually. So queen e2, you know, covers d3 again. And I'm preparing to play h3 and kick his bishop away. If he plays his bishop back to f5, hitting d3, then I can play knight e4. Of course, if I play knight e4, well, it's moot now, because he didn't play that move. Alright, so now bishop b3, but then my d3 pawn is hanging. This d3 pawn is a problem for me. So maybe castles, because I need to be able to guard the d3 pawn again if he plays bishop f5. Of course, maybe he's just going to play f5 and e4. So I could play my bishop... Again, I keep wanting to play bishop b3, but my d3 pawn is hanging. So I need to do something about that. I think it's just h3 here to kick his bishop, but then his bishop can go back to h5. So, yeah, I think I just have a bad position here. I could play rook d1 with the idea of playing my knight to f1. But after playing my knight to f1, he's just going to take on f3. So how do I get my pieces unjumbled? I could move my queen again, but where do I play it? Where do I move my queen? Queen e3. He controls virtually the whole 4th rank here. So that's a problem for me. I don't know. I don't know how I was supposed to play that position, but definitely not like this. Alright, rook e1 just gets a piece in play, but rook e1, I don't know, allows me to play queen f1 and then move my knight. But why would I want to? I mean, my main problem is the weakness of the d3 pawn is preventing me from, moving my bishop. So none of these minor pieces can really move without allowing, bishop takes f3. Is e4 a threat for him? e4, then takes, take. No, e4 is not a threat. This position is just bad, real bad. Could play some slow plan with, a3 and b4. Maybe a3, rook b1, b4, trying to open up the queen side. I feel I should play my rook to e1 first to give my queen a place to hide on f1, because that might become necessary. Well, this is just not good. So he plays knight e7. I don't know why he didn't put his knight on f6. Is he concerned? He's not concerned about me taking on e5. So maybe he's going to play like f4, knight f5. But that would give up the e4 square. Again, so my idea is to play rook b1. I can't play rook b1 because my a-pawn would hang. Bishop... If I could only play bishop b3, but I can't really do it because then I'm hanging my... So bishop b3, queen takes, rook takes. But then my bishop can't do anything on that diagonal. If only I had the way to like trap his rook when his rook takes on d3. But no, I don't think that is possible. So a3 will be the next move in my plan. So I'll just play that. See, I have to be concerned about him playing pawn to e4 at some point, because then it... because then my bishop on... his bishop on g7 could then become open on the long diagonal in my c3. If I play b4, my c3 pawn becomes loose. Of course, I could... just, if he plays e4, I could meet it with... I can't meet it with c4 hitting his queen. I don't know. I want to play pawn to b4 at some point. Alright, so here... playing g5. So he wants to play g4 and break open my king. What about bishop b4 in this position? Bishop b4. Or not b4, bishop b3. And he moves his queen back. Oh no, bishop b3, he takes on d3. Then I take, then rook takes, and then I take on g5. that'd be okay. I don't know if that's forced, but see, if bishop b3, he could just retreat his queen to d6 or something. See, if I play pawn g4, pawn takes pawn, knight h2, the problem is... The problem with g4 pawn takes, knight h2 pawn takes, I can't take on h5 because queen g2 would be mate. See, I'm just gonna get crushed with g4. So, alright, this was unexpected. He took my bishop, my knight there. So I can't take with knight because my bishop would be hanging. So now we have to calculate. Bishop takes queen. He's got to take my queen. And then I can check him on e6. And then take his bishop. So at the end of all that, each side has 3 pieces. But he can take on d3. He can take on d3 at the very end and go up a pawn. So bishop takes d5 is not it's not good. Bishop takes d5 just loses the pawn. Bishop takes d5, queen takes e2. Bishop takes c6, knight takes c6, rook takes. See, my d3 pawn hangs at the very end. That's a problem. So if I can't take on d5, there's only one reasonable move here, and it's queen takes on f3. And he's probably going to take my queen on f3. So if he takes my queen on f3, I take with knight. I am now threatening his g5 pawn. So if he takes on d3, I can take on g5. If he pushes to g4, I can take, and if he takes, I play bishop e6 check, forking his king and the g4 pawn. Gotta do something. Because you could play queen takes d3 here. Yeah, queen takes d3, and now he is up a pawn. If I take his queen, he plays rook takes. And now because my knight is still on d2, I can't take on g5. Rook e3 hits his queen, but then he just moves his queen back. So this is, I don't know, I don't want to trade and just go down into a pawn, you know, a pawn for nothing, so I'll just gotta run away with my queen. I anticipate he'll play h6 to guard his g pawn. I could play bishop c4 to hit his queen, but his queen can always retreat on the d file. I never really got in my b4 pawn break to loosen up the king. So h3, maybe h3 was a mistake, because h3 forced me to respond to his threat of pushing to g4. Again, is there any move he could play other than h6? If h6, I could play queen f7, hitting his bishop. But what does that accomplish, really? I feel like the only thing I can do in this position is annoy my opponent. He says, I missed that. Again, I don't feel like my opponent is particularly strong. He played very simple moves, and I just didn't know how to play my opening system that I chose. Queen f7. Perhaps he plays rook h7, threatening the discovery. But no, he doesn't really have any good discoveries. And plus, I can always play queen e6 check. So again, my queen is really the only active piece, which is not a great thing. Except here I might be threatening to play bishop e6, check, and grab. No, I'm not threatening to play bishop e6 and grab on f5, because his queen is still guarding that square. Alright, so bishop c4 maybe. Bishop c4, then his queen has to go back. And then I play bishop e6 check. And then take on f5. And I get my pawn back. Queen d7 would lose, so he has to play queen d6. And after queen d6, his queen could become a target for knight c4 even. I feel like I just lucked into this combination. So, bishop e6 check, he's going to move his king somewhere. And then I will play bishop takes on f5. Except he has rook f8 at the end of that. Rook f8, though, I take his rook on f8, and then he plays bishop takes, and I take his rook on h7, so I get 2 rooks for it. Seems legit. Or maybe if he plays rook f8, I can kind of counterattack with knight c4 or something. Counterattack with knight c4. No, he just moves his queen. He plays like queen d8. And then he'll be hitting my bishop on f5 with his knight and rook, and I will lose a piece. So yeah, rook f8 has to be met by queen takes, and then, you know, take the other rook. Alright, so this was a 15-minute game, actually a 15-10 game. I've 4 minutes and my opponent's 7 minutes. So after I get back this pawn, I'm going to have the bishop pair. My opponent will have an isolated e-pawn. It looks like I'm undeveloped, but really after I move my knight, all of my pieces will be active. Because really my bishop on c1, what other square does it have? I don't know what he's thinking about. King b8 would be the obvious move from here. Maybe he's concerned about, after he plays his king, my knight goes to c4. If my knight goes to c4... Well, if knight goes to c4, he plays queen to d3. And then I can't really take on f5, because then my knight would be loose. Oh no, he can't take on f5 because his queen would guard f5. So knight c4 doesn't really achieve anything here. I have to just go in for this capture. I anticipate he'll take on f5 with his knight, unless he wants to trap my queen. So now his rook on h7 is attacked. And now I believe I'm fine. I can play knight e4 and bishop e3 and get everything connected. That is an ugly place to put his rook. I do not believe in what he did last move at all. So continue with knight e4, blockading his e-pawn, and hitting his queen and also c5. So I should be able to quickly play bishop e3, hitting his c-pawn again, and then play rook d1. So is my queen getting trapped? No, because his rook on h8 is hanging. So it only makes sense for him to put his rooks there. And my opponent has resigned. Okay, so that was a, I guess my opponent just felt like his position was going downhill, and he resigned. So, hope you got something out of this, and talk to you next time.